Today we're going to show you how to plant a tree or a shrub. So what we're going to plant today is a Nanking Cherry, which is a wonderful shrub cherry, one of my very favorite fruits and plants, easy to take care of, highly productive, and a lot of fun to eat. So the first thing you always want to do is make sure that it's well moistened in the container. So we're going to go ahead and water it now and let this water be soaking in while we're digging the hole for it. In this case, because we haven't got a whole lot of slope and the soil drains really well, we're going to try to plant this plant pretty much level with the surface, which means we need to figure out how deep to plant it. And I usually use a spade as a reference. So about 1 spade depth is going to be about right for digging the hole. If you dig the hole too deeply, then the plant has a tendency to settle over time and be too low. The other thing that we want to do is dig a nice wide hole, at least twice the diameter of the plant. This will take me a couple of minutes. So you can see there's a little layer of topsoil and then there's some of this reddish clay subsoil down below it. We're actually going to mix those up. There's a rock. Out goes the rock. Oh yeah! So I actually like to use the hole itself, almost like a mixing bowl. This hole is about a shovel depth, so it should be just about perfect for this 3-gallon Nanking Cherry. So the next stage is going to be to mix some rock powders and soil amendments into this nicely fluffed soil here. Now, a lot of times with conventional planting instructions, they say remove the existing soil, add a lot of organic matter, things along those kind of lines. And really, that's not the best practice. You're much better off, and the plant's better off, if you prepare the soil well, dig a nice wide hole, and then plant it in the existing soil. You might at most want to put maybe a shovel full of good compost in there, but certainly don't load it with a lot of organic matter. The plant will tend to not spread out into the existing soil, and what we want it to do is to get those roots established in the soil that it's going to have to live in for the rest of its life. In this case, we're going to add some green sand, which will help to flocculate clays or keep them really granular, a little bit of lime to correct for the low pHs that we have. We're also going to add some colloidal phosphate, and phosphate is really important for root development, disease and insect resistance, flower bud formation, or things along those kind of lines. Then we're going to add a bit of organic mixed fertilizer to make sure that we get some nitrogen and add a little extra phosphorus and potassium. So now we're just going to mix all these amendments up really well, so that they're pretty homogeneous in terms of the blend. And we'll just take out enough soil to be able to get the container into the space. I always like to throw the soil uphill of the hole. That way you don't lose any soil, and it's a lot easier to rake it back downhill, not having to fight gravity. That looks good. So if you've got a really heavy clay soil, I'd recommend you take a square-tined English garden fork and just crack the bottom of the hole. We're not going to excavate it, we're just going to crack it open a little bit. And that'll allow those roots to penetrate more deeply into the ground without causing the plant to settle. Now we're ready to plant the plant. So I like to hold the plant over the hole, invert it so that any mulch or container media is going to fall out and into the hole, and just slowly extract it. And then I check for any circling roots, and then this plant doesn't really have any, but I'll sometimes just lightly fluff those roots up a little bit, get them broken a little bit loose so that they'll go ahead and move out into the surrounding soil a little bit faster. and align it in the direction that you want it to be growing in. And then put the backfill back in around it. Work it down in with your fingers so there's no air pockets. And then lightly tamp it in. And then I'm going to take whatever extra soil we have left from this, and because it's slightly downhill on this side, I'm going to build a little watering dam. Here we go. As you can see, this plant is planted just about at the existing soil surface level, maybe just slightly higher. If you're in clay soils and you're worried about the drainage, particularly if it's something like a cherry that needs good drainage, plant that plant 2 or 3 inches above the existing soil level and mound the soil up to it. That helps assure in real heavy clay soils that you get good drainage on your plants. So now I'm going to put a little bit of this blended organic fertilizer, and now it's time to mulch it in. And this will help keep down weeds, but also to hold moisture in the ground during dry periods. And you always want to mulch your plants in it after you're done. The last step when you're mulching, and this is really important, and that's to make sure that the mulch isn't up against the stem of the plant, because if it is, that just makes it more susceptible to potential bark borers and things like that that can kill your plant. And if you just keep that mulch back from the stem about 3-4 inches away from the stem, you won't have that problem, and you'll still get the benefits of the mulch. There we go. Before we water it in, we're going to go ahead and crack the surrounding soil. And what that will do will open up channels out beyond the planting hole so that the roots of the plants can easily move outward into the surrounding soil. And we're going to do this on this one 3 or 4 different places. So the final stage is making sure it's well watered in. We're going to just wet that mulch down a little bit around the outside edges. But because all the roots on that plant are right there around that container in the middle, that's where we're going to focus most of the water. And we built that little dam on the downhill side to hold that water. And when it kind of starts to get full, then you move out, water the mulch down a little bit more. Make sure the surrounding soil is nice and moist too.
While Chuck applies a diluted seaweed solution, you might be feeling a little overwhelmed. Despair not, for we have provided written planting instructions on our website, usefulplants.org. Just make sure to find the instructions that accompany the plant you are working with, since different plants prefer different conditions. In general, the important thing to remember is to let these plants do their thing, and they will love you for it. Now to close out the video, here's Chuck.
These are wonderful plants, and with our help and cooperation, they can yield fruit for us and our children and our grandchildren for generations to come. And it didn't really take all that long to plant it, and we're just so thankful for all the wonders and blessings that the plant kingdom gives us. So thank you very much, Nanking Cherry. May you live long and prosper and provide much delight for the human world, and also whatever wildlife chooses to eat your fruit as well. Thank you so much.